coming from. So Max Moore writes, sorry to disturb you, Mother Nature, but we humans, your offspring, come to you with some things to say. Perhaps you could pass this along to Father, since we never seem to see him around. We want to thank you for the many wonderful qualities you've bestowed on us with your slow but massive distributed intelligence. You have raised us from simple self-replicating chemicals. Really? Really? Simple self-replicating chemicals. Abiogenesis. Non-life to life. Sorry, I shouldn't be. Anyway, you have raised us from simple self-replicating chemicals to trillion-celled mammals. You have given us free reign of the planet. You have given us a lifespan of longer than that of almost any other animal. You have endowed us with a complex brain, giving us the capacity for language, reason, foresight, curiosity, and creativity. You have given us the capacity for self-understanding as well as empathy for others. Mother Nature, truly, we are grateful for what you have made of us. No doubt you did the best you could. However, with all due respect, we must say that you have, in many ways, done a poor job with the human constitution.
Okay.
You have made us vulnerable to disease and damage. You compel us to age and die just as we're beginning to attain wisdom. You were miserly in the extent to which you gave us awareness of our somatic, cognitive, and emotional processes. You held out on us by giving the sharpest senses to other animals. You made us functional only under narrow environmental conditions. You gave us limited memory, poor impulse control, and tribalistic xenophobic urges. And you forgot to give us the operating manual for ourselves. Now, I have to jump in here because we certainly do have that operating manual. What you have made us is glorious yet deeply flawed. You seem to have lost interest in our further evolution some 100,000 years ago. Or perhaps you've been biding your time, waiting for us to take the next steps ourselves. Either way, we have reached our childhood's end. We have decided that it's time to amend the human constitution. We don't do this lightly, carelessly, or disrespectfully, but cautiously, intelligently, and in pursuit of excellence. We intend to make you proud of us. Over the coming decades, we will pursue a series of changes to our own constitution, initiated with the tools of biotechnology, guided by critical and creative thinking. In particular, we declare the following 7 amendments to the human constitution. I'm not going to read them all, but I am going to read a little bit of it here. Amendment 1, we will no longer tolerate the tyranny of aging and death. Number 2, we will expand our perceptual range through biotechnological and computational means. Number 3, we will improve on our neural organization and capacity. Number 4, we will supplement the neocortex with a metabrain. Number 5, we will no longer be slaves to our genes. Number 6, we will cautiously yet boldly reshape our motivational patterns and emotional responses in ways we, as individuals, deem healthy. And number 7, we recognize your genius in using carbon-based compounds to develop us, yet we will not limit our physical, intellectual, or emotional capacities by remaining purely biological organism. These amendments to our Constitution will move us from a human to a transhuman condition as individuals. We believe that individual transhumanizing, for now it's transgendering, transition, will also allow us to form relationships, cultures, and polities of unprecedented innovation, richness, freedom, and responsibility. We reserve the right to make further amendments collectively and individually, and on and on and on. I invite you to look at Isaiah 14 with me for just a moment. We'll skip down here to verses 9 through 11. I'll set it up for you. This prophecy continues from the context of Isaiah 13. It is important to remember that Isaiah here has two aspects of prophetic fulfillment in mind. Typically, it's like this. Sometimes it's like this. First, there's an immediate and partial fulfillment of prophecy regarding here, which is the empire of Babylon and its king. Secondly, there is a distal or a distant and fulfillment and a distant and ultimate fulfillment regarding the spiritual empire of Babylon. Spiritual Babylon. Later on, the rebellious empire. The world system and its king, Satan. So keep that in mind as we just read through this for a minute here. We'll start here with verse 9. Sheol beneath is stirred up to meet you when you come. It rouses the shades to greet you. All who are leaders of the earth, it raises from their thrones. All who are kings of the nations, all of them will answer and say to you, you too have become weak as we. You too have become like us. Your pomp is brought down to the grave. The sound of your harps, maggots are laid as a bed beneath you, and worms are your covers. Now listen closely here as we go to verse 12. See if you find anything interesting here about what we just read from this letter to Mother Nature. We will. How are you fallen from heaven, O day star, son of dawn? How you are cut down to the ground, you who laid the nations low. You said in your heart, I will ascend to heaven above the stars of God. I will set my throne on high. I will sit on the mount of assembly in the far reaches of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. But you are brought down to the grave, to the far reaches of the pit. Those who see you will stare at you and ponder over you. Is this the man who made the earth tremble, who shook kingdoms, who made the world like a desert and overthrew its cities, who did not let his prisoners go home? All the kings of the nations lie in glory, each in his own tomb, but you are cast out, away from your grave, like a loathed branch, clothed with the dead, those pierced by the sword, who go down to the stones of the pit, like a dead body trampled underfoot. That's the future, for the one who believes that we will improve ourselves, we will supplement, I will change my body, I will become a woman. It's been debated for a lot of years about whether or not the first part of this passage is really referring to only the king of literal Babylon with no reference to Satan at all. But this part of the I will, there is no doubt that this is the spirit behind it. No question about that. So it's reasonable and it's a good application to see this as both a reference to the ancient king of Babylon and the spiritual power behind that king. Have you also become as weak as we? Have you become like us? When he went to hell, the king of literal Babylon was exposed as a mere man, as Satan will be. He thought of himself as greater than that. Sadly, like Max Moore. Sadly, as Tim Gill. It's Joe Biden, for that matter. As well, when the king of spiritual Babylon goes to hell, all will be amazed to see that he was just a weak creature. So we see here in verses 12 through 15, son of the dawn, the morning star, Lucifer. Whether it's a title or a name really doesn't make any difference. This once brightly shining king of Babylon, this once glorious, beautiful cherub angel, created being by God, is now fallen from heaven. They're all created beings. Even though he may have never said it with his lips, it was enough that he said it in his heart. For you've said in your heart, is what Scripture says. So I will. The pride of the grasping, selfish ambition, the self-will of the king of Babylon is powerfully expressed in these 5 I will statements. This is the essence of the self-focused and self-obsessed lie. I will ascend to heaven. So it's as if he is saying, heaven will be my home and my place. In fact, I will create heaven. I will bring heaven to earth. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will be enthroned. I'll be God. I'll be exalted above all the other beings. I'll sit in the place of glory and I'll have all the honor and attention. I'll continue to rise. I'll continue to evolve. In fact, I'll manage my evolution. Even in heaven, until everyone sees me in my bright and shining glory, I will overcome. I will be glorious and be set equal to God, far above all the other created beings. But the heart of Jesus says that the status of equality with God is not something to hang on to. Jesus says, I will let it go. Jesus says, I will give up my reputation. Jesus says, I will be a servant. Jesus says, I will live humbly among men. And Jesus says, I will even die an excruciating and humiliating death. When Lucifer departed from this heart, he fell from glory, just the same as we, God's creatures, created beings, so often do also. It is a strange paradox that nothing makes a being less like God than this urge to be his equal. Because he who was God stepped down from the throne of his glory to display to the wonder of all men everywhere his humility. Right? The attribute of God that's most amazing to us because of his omniscience and omnipotence is his humility. What prompted Satan to say this? What prompts people like Max Moore, Tim Gill, or anyone else to say this? To exalt themselves over other creatures? What prompts these 5 I will statements? Why did Lucifer rebel? It's because they reject God's design, they reject his plan, and they try to create an order of beings that are made in their own image. The fetish and the self-idolatry of these men, fomenting is the word, I guess, the transgender movement on society or on culture as a mass experiment for their benefit. Ultimately, they want to create, they want to form this humanity in their image. One day, they want to be lifted up in honor and status above everyone. Satan wanted to be the highest among all creatures, equal to God in glory and honor. And the plan to create man would eventually put men above angels. Satan doesn't like that. He was apparently able to persuade at least a third of the angelic beings to join him in rebellion, Revelation 12. So in this case, it explains well Satan's present strategy against mankind. What was one of the main points